It kinda feels weird talking about Star Wars Resistance again after having done just a video on it several days ago. But some new information regarding it has come out that I think could really change our views about the show. Now, whether that may change for the better or for the worse, well, that's up for you to decide. Okay, so first of all, one person on Twitter actually digged around the source code on the official Resistance website and found out that the series will only be set 6 months before The Force Awakens. Yeah, 6 months, which isn't really all that long, especially when we compare that to Rebels, which took place 5 years before A New Hope. And even then, they rushed through those 5 years in a span of 4 seasons. And that's mainly because Disney wanted to get the original trilogy content off the air to replace it with Resistance, a sequel trilogy show, because the sequel trilogy is Disney's flagship Star Wars trilogy. Same reason the Star Wars theme park at Disneyland and World was originally supposed to be set in the original trilogy, but Disney made them change it to be set in the sequel trilogy instead. Of course, that's a different topic for a different video. But as for this, so what I'm getting at here, if Rebels had a 5-year gap before an actual movie and had 4 seasons, then what can we possibly expect from Resistance having only a 6-month gap before a movie? Not much. If anything, I can possibly see them squeeze 2 seasons max out of Resistance before going to do something else. And that's assuming that Resistance, like Rebels, won't showcase the movie events or go in between them. Now, of course, the short time span before The Force Awakens isn't confirmation that the show will only be 2 seasons long, but it nonetheless is still an indication that it could possibly be short-lived. Next, we've also found out that Dave Filoni, to whom which was a big reason for me to even want to check out Resistance in the first place, doesn't exactly have that much of a hand in the show, as according to a recent report, Filoni hasn't been involved in the show for quite some time now. He began it, sure, but then let others fly off it while he focused more on Clone Wars Season 7. Which, after hearing that, is kind of alarming for Filoni fans who wanted to get into Resistance. Filoni was deeply involved in Clone Wars and Rebels, and it was his directing and storytelling that made those shows such great Star Wars material. But now, finding out that Filoni has little to do with Resistance, it only lowered my expectations of the show. It kind of reminds me of The Walking Dead, where that show was started by Hollywood director Frank Darabont, but then he left the project after the first episode and the show took a different direction, leaving a lot of disappointed fans. Now, most likely Filoni wants to finish Clone Wars Season 7 first, and then is more interested in starting a new series based on Ahsoka and Sabine's quest for Ezra. Which, yeah, it's looking like that's gonna be a whole different series. As in the Rebels Season 4 Blu-ray commentary, he did confirm that Ahsoka and Sabine's story would not be in Resistance. So that only adds more reason that he would want to do an entire series in order to properly tell that story. And since we know how protective Filoni is of his characters appearing in media that he doesn't have a hand in, especially Ahsoka, I doubt that Ahsoka will even be in Resistance. So with Filoni not involved with Resistance, I think that makes a lot of sense to say that that's perhaps a big reason why the series will be short-lived, as once it will be over, Filoni will be pushing his Ahsoka and Sabine series to Disney, which honestly, well, probably lasts longer than Resistance, all due to the time they have to work with, as that story starts 30 years before The Force Awakens. So in general, a lot more room for Filoni to play around with. But what do you all think? Would you be okay with a short-lived Resistance series? Or are you not happy to hear that Resistance could potentially be pretty short, and want to see more of that before an Ahsoka and Sabine series? Also, after hearing about Filoni's lack of involvement in Resistance, has that changed your stance about the show in general? Let me know in the comments down below. N7 out.